the Shiva Sutras. We're going to continue from where we left off. And we're not going to waste much time. In this video, there's going to be a lot in number of Tattvas and Sutras, but I promise you they're much more condensed. They are smaller. They don't require a lot of time to dissect individually. They fit within the entire context of Kashmir Shaivism in Trika philosophy. And yeah, let's just get started with the Tattvas of the limited individual experience. This is Tattvas 6 through 11, and these are pretty much mashed up together, 6 through 11. The sixth one being Maya itself, and the other 5 being the Kunchokas, or these sub layers within Maya that makes up the whole of Maya. Very interesting how particular Trika philosophy can be with its many different layers of reality. And we'll start Maya Tattva. From this stage onward, there is impure order, which the higher ideal nature of the divine is veiled. Now, we'll see the nature of this veiling. Maya is derived from the root ma, to measure out, that which makes experience measurable, limited, and severs the this from I and I from this, and excludes things from one another, is Maya. The idea of this pen as a particularity within the universe, with its borders and its constraint, and me saying that this is this, and I am me, and there's a separation between these two, that's the Maya. Therefore, the very word Maya means that power by which experience is measured in a particular way. Now, I want to further emphasize what that could mean. That also means that you calling out that everything is Maya, look around you, oh wow, I have this realization and I can see the Maya around me. But what is the constraint there? You see, the idea of Maya within your head is within the scope of your thoughts. The very constriction is the mind itself believing that it understands Maya. And that is a very tricky thing. The people that want to claim that there's Maya all around us and Maya is here, trust me, from our relative perspective, from any relative perspective, if you think you can call it out, it might as well just be real at this relative juncture. Now, in order to actually have an experience of Maya, it's like crossing to go somewhere. It's like physically moving somewhere, but you're sitting still. How do you move somewhere else while being still? That is the realization of Maya. Now, the products of Maya, the 5 kunchukas, or coverings, their functions are given here. Number 1, kala. This reduces the universal authorship of the universal consciousness and brings about limitation in respect of authorship or efficacy. Number 2, vidya. This reduces the omniscience of the universal consciousness and brings about limitation in respect of knowledge. Number 3, raga. This reduces the all satisfaction of the universal consciousness and brings about desire for particular things. Number 4, kala. Kala again. This reduces the eternity of the universal consciousness and brings about limitation in respect of time, the division of past, present, and future. So interesting. Even kala as time, particularity in how we localize time. I knew and know, and I will know. All of that is the Maya in and of itself. Niyati. This reduces the freedom or pervasiveness of the universal consciousness and brings about limitation in respect of cause, space, and form. Niyati is pretty much any phenomenon, and all a phenomenon, cause, space, and form, is Maya. And from Maya and the 5 kunchukas, we will move to the next stage of the tattvas of the limited individual, me and you. This is the 12th tattva, Purusha. Shiva, through Maya Shakti, which limits his universal knowledge and power, becomes Purusha, or the individual subject. Purusha, in this context, means every sentient being. Purusha is also known as Anu in this system. The word Anu is used in the sense of limitation of the divine perfection. So, notice what happens here. Shiva is still within you. Shiva is still that which is all encompassing, all pervasive, completely transcendental, completely omniscient, all that great stuff. But limited and distilled down to you and me. All is still one, all is Lord Shiva at the end of the day. The 13th tattva is Prakriti. While Purusha is the subjective manifestation of Shiva, Prakriti is the objective manifestation. There's a difference between the Sankhya conception of Prakriti and that of Trika philosophy. Sankhya believes that Prakriti is one and universal of all Purushas. Trika believes that each Purusha has a different Prakriti. Prakriti is the matrix of all objectivity, very distinct understanding of the subjective reality, and that each subjective reality can in and of itself create its own reality. Even in the language within this book, we can understand that there is a understanding of sets, and not only sets, but infinite sets. You know, we always think in numbers of infinite. What is, it's just everything. All things, it's just infinite. But it's particularly mathematics, mathematics allows sets of infinites. And the Trika philosophy, the Trika understanding, the Kashmir Shaivists understand this in a different way, in that infinity can be within the subjective realities of all subjective realities in this infinite set. Absolutely masterful understanding of reality. Prakriti has 3 gunas. You can learn this. Sri Krishna says this himself in the Bhagavad Gita. This is a direct connection between all of Hinduism understands this Prakriti nature, born of Prakriti. This karma comes, and through this karma, the 3 gunas act. As Sri Krishna has said, the Sattva, the Rajas, and the Tamsa. And this book acknowledges all 3 gunas, where Sattva is categorized by brightness and lightness. In the psychological order, it is categorized by transparency, joy, and peace. In the ethical order, it is the principle of goodness. In the order of being, tamas is the principle of darkness, inertness. In the psychological order, it is categorized by dullness, delusion, and dejection. And in the ethical order, it is principle of degradation, debasement. In the order of being, rajas is categorized by activity. In the psychological order, it is categorized by craving and passion. In the ethical order, it is the principle of ambition and avarice. The understanding of the 3 gunas is very essential to a basic understanding of Hinduism. And now we'll get into the sutras themselves. We'll start with 8, 9, and 10. These 3 are pretty much all together, and we'll continue from there. This is a continuation, 8, 9, and 10, from the 7th sutra, which is Jagrat Svapana Susupta Bhidi Turya Bhoga Sambhava. Even during the 3 states of consciousness, the waking, dreaming, and profound sleep, the rapturous experience of eye consciousness of the 4th state abides. 8, 9, and 10 is the breaking down of these 3 states talked about previously. Jnanam Jagrat, which is all knowledge obtained by direct contact with the external world, is included in a wide sense in a category of waking state of consciousness, which the subject is in contact with in the objective world around him on any plane. Okay, that's very straightforward. Shiva Sutra number 9, Svapano Vikalpa. All knowledge obtained by the independent activity of the mind when the subject is not in direct contact with the external world around him on any plane is included in the category of svapana, or dreaming state of consciousness in a wide sense. Now, you can only dream about things that you understand, have seen, have interacted with, have experienced. Without any experience, there's no dream state. The language in your dreams is the language you know. And then, number 10, the word aviveka has been used here in the sense of non discernment, lack of awareness. The word maya has been used here in the sense of mohamayam, of the form of delusion. So the sutra therefore means lack of awareness on any plane is the profound sleep of delusion. So putting it all together, Sutra 8, 9, and 10, what is actually being said here? It's saying that even if your eyes are open, doesn't mean you're awake. If you're not living in constant awareness, if things are just kind of automatic, you're reaching into that bag of chips and just putting that food in your mouth, you're just looking at the TV screen, you're doing this. And not just with like food, with anything that you're doing. Take the bag of chips, take that as an example visually in your mind. It means you're asleep. That's what that means. The one that is in full awareness, not saying that a bag of chips is wrong. Hey, I'm taking a chip, I'm putting it in my mouth. I'm conscious of everything that I'm doing. And because I'm conscious of everything that I'm doing, I don't regret anything in the future. And because you don't regret anything in the future, is because you probably know your limit with how much chips you're going to have. All that other stuff. And that analogy can be applied to everything. Everything done with full awareness leads to a better life, leads to things being done with a sense of restraint, with a sense of respect, with a sense of acknowledgement of the past, present, and the future. Sutra number 11. Tritaya Bhokta Viresha. Being the enjoyer of the rapture of I consciousness in the triad of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, he's verily the master of his senses. In yoga, we often train ourselves to control the senses. And through the controlling of the senses, we become the masters of our own body, the masters of our own selves. In here, this can also be achieved through this true knowledge and true experiential integration of the three states and the three modes that every human being goes through, and that is the triad, the waking, dreaming, and the deep sleep. Very important that this yoga can be achieved through many different paths. Viranam, of the senses. When the senses function ordinarily in common life, they are merely vrittis, modes acquiring objective and subjective experience. When, however, the subject consciously acquires the experience of the fourth state, then his senses become shaktis, divine powers intent on abolishing all sense of difference. They are not merely indriyas, but viras now. The experient now becomes their master. He uses them for the higher purpose of life that is no longer used by them. Shiva Sutra number 12. Vismayo Yoga Bhumika. Vismayo, fascinating order. Yoga Bhumika, the stations and stages of yoga constitute a fascinating wonder. As a person is struck with wonder by seeing something extraordinary, even so there is a pleasant surprise for the great yogi who notices in mute wonder an expansion in the power of his entire complex of senses as they come fully under the influence of the inner self, which is a mass of consciousness and full of unique, preeminent, and ever new delight of I consciousness, which blossoms forth in the experience of the various objects of perception. The yogi has this experience in himself that is full of uninterrupted joy, a joy with which he never feels satiated. This fascinating wonder betokens the various stations and stages of yoga, which means communion with the highest reality. These are definite stations indicative of the repose of the yogi in the higher consciousness during the powers of his ascent to the highest reality, not experiences which one may notice in the psychic center between the eyebrows. This constant language of something that is truly wondrous, amazing, blissful in such a heavenly way. It is, as someone understands himself, as someone has control over the senses, as someone, it's not this Vedantic muteness. It's not this completely still, completely statuesque. It's something of true flowering and beauty. How this philosophy captures spiritual evolution makes you think that the highest seat is truly something to be worth pursuing. And truly, as the yogi practices more and more, and notice that everything is colored in the idea of experience. And experience comes with practice. Shiva Sutra number 13. Icha Shaktir Uma Kumari. The willpower of the yogi who is in communion with Shiva is Uma, who is Kumari. Now, further definitions of what this is. The willpower of the yogi who has reached the status of the highest Bhairava is Uma, the highest Shakti of the Lord. This Shakti is Kumari, intent on the play of manifesting the universe and finally withdrawing it within himself. This interpretation is based on the root Kumara, meaning to play. This is like saying which is more powerful, the man that can destroy the world or the man that can destroy the world and chooses not to. Clearly, the man that chooses not to. Even if the tangible power is the same, there is a power that can only be accessed from the self, something that has a true understanding of all this reality. The restraint is that understanding. The restraint is understanding the code and not falling into the impulse of, oh, if I can, then I must. That in and of itself is a Maya. That in and of itself is a life lived without awareness. That is the one who is still asleep, even though their eyes are open. The one who understands this is more powerful than all men and all people. That who simply can do everything, be a beautiful person, be a caring person, be a dangerous person, be absolutely capable in all spectrums of life, and consciously chooses when and where to deploy their power. Absolutely amazing. A life lived with awareness is a life worth living. That's what it is. And that the whole of not only this philosophy, but in all of the yogic teachings in this umbrella of Sanatana Dharma does not deviate from this conclusion. Live with awareness, live your life with intention. That in no sphere, in even your sleep, even in your dreams, you do not live without this awareness. And one can only do that with proper practice. One can only do that by putting in the work. And as we go further and further into understanding the sutras, as we go further and further to understanding ourselves and the different layers of this existence, we can know that it is worth having, it is joyful, it is beautiful, and that all people can prosper, and that we can help people prosper. This is the Hindu Conceptualist, signing out.